the Cincinnati Bengals 2021 wide receivers. So when you look at the wide receivers for Cincinnati, this is one of the best wide receiving groups in all of the NFL. Definitely top 5. Now, you look at Jamar Chase, there were a lot of people, including myself, who were really skeptical of deciding to pass on Penei Sewell, offensive tackle, who is now with the Detroit Lions out of Oregon, but they ended up taking Jamar Chase. Now, Jamar Chase, in a lot of people's eyes, was the best wide receiver coming out of this past year's draft. He has great size. He has great hands. He pretty much is a reincarnation of like an AJ Green of Julio Jones. A lot of people expect him to have a phenomenal rookie season. Now, you look at Jamar Chase, I think he should be in for one of the best rookie seasons behind Devontae Smith. I believe Devontae Smith is going to pop off because, unlike Jamar Chase, Philadelphia doesn't really have a lot of talent at the wide receiver position. Meanwhile, Jamar Chase is going to be sharing targets with Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, who are also really good in their own rights. But you look at Jamar Chase and you look at the connection and chemistry that him and Joe Burrow had at LSU back in 2019 when they won the national championship. You're looking for that spark to kind of be reunited this year with Joe Burrow coming back fully healthy. So I expect a big rookie season out of Jamar Chase. He definitely should be in the running for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He probably should be like at 1,000 yards or more, probably should have at least 6 to 7 touchdowns, and he should have a really solid rookie year for Cincinnati. As a matter of fact, he should have an incredible rookie season for Cincinnati, because when you draft the wide receiver in the top 10, top 5, you're expecting them to have an immediate impact. They should be a Pro Bowl caliber player right away. So that's what I'm expecting out of Jamar Chase. I expect a big impact, and I expect him to be somewhat of a Pro Bowl caliber performer this year. I know a lot of you Bengals fans may be like, well, JT's just a rookie. You can't expect him to make it to the Pro Bowl. You can't expect him to be this good. He has to develop. You saw Justin Jefferson last year? Like, anytime there's a wide receiver that's taken in the top 10, they should be giving you a Pro Bowl caliber production season right away as a rookie. I know that came out wrong, but you should have a guy who should automatically ascend to one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. When you're taking a wide receiver that high, he should have that kind of impact. That the fact that you should be able to make an argument that he deserves to be in the Pro Bowl, or he should be somewhere in that discussion. So when you look at Jamar Chase, I have high expectations for Jamar Chase. He was the first wide receiver taken off the board. So I think, will he live up to those expectations? I do. I definitely think that he should be in for a pretty big rookie season. Then you have Tyler Boyd. Now, I mentioned this earlier, and I'm going to say it again until Bengals fans get it nailed down in the coffin. Tyler Boyd is the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL. For a long time, the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL has been T.Y. Hilton, but he kind of has had a couple of down years back in 2019 and 2020. So I think Tyler Boyd has taken over the role of that title of being the most overlooked wide receiver in the league. Last year, he continued to have another good season with 79 receptions, 841 receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns. He was, once again, the best wide receiver on this team, and I felt like he should have made it to the Pro Bowl. Once again, overlooked, and doesn't even get a sniff of the Pro Bowl. Like, doesn't even get a whiff, man. Like, I don't know what's going on with Bengals fans when it comes to Tyler Boyd, man. Like, show this guy some more respect. Put Tyler Boyd in the Pro Bowl. Tyler Boyd should be a Pro Bowler. He's one of the most underrated wide receivers in the league, and he does not get the respect he deserves. You know what? I'm going to cop a Tyler Boyd jersey. Yes, I am. Yes, I am a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, but I'm going to cop a Tyler Boyd jersey. And you may be like, JT, you're a Steelers fan. Why are you wearing a Bengals jersey? Listen, you got to understand something. I am a fan of the NFL first. Then I'm a Steelers fan. So if I want to wear a opposing rival's jersey, I have every right to do so. I know I'm a Steelers fan, but people act like I can't be a fan of the NFL. I'm JT Sports. I talk about all 32 NFL teams. I'm a fan of the NFL first, then I'm a Steelers fan. So when you look at Tyler Boyd, he once again should have a pretty good year. And with the addition of Jamar Chase, that's probably going to open up Tyler Boyd as well. On top of that, you have to look out for the next guy in T. Higgins, who probably had I think he probably had the second or third best rookie season for a wide receiver last year. I think he probably had the second best, if I'm not mistaken. So you had Justin Jefferson, you had T. Higgins. I think T. Higgins had the second best rookie year last year out of all the rookie wide receivers. Now, he was drafted in the second round, so guys like Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, you had Jalen Reagor, who went ahead of him. and CeeDee Lamb, but I think T. Higgins probably, if you go back and you do a redraft of last year's NFL draft, he probably will end up being the second wide receiver taken off the board. He had 67 catches for 908 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. He had a really nice year, especially when Joe Burrow went down. I feel like he kind of emerged there when you look at, the struggles they had at the quarterback position once Joe Burrow had that injury. So he was still pretty rock solid. So I think he could also be a guy who ends up being in the discussion to have a really big season this year. He probably could go over 1,000 yards. As a matter of fact, you probably could make the argument and say that the Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver position with the first 3 guys they have in Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins probably could all go for over 1,000 yards, but we know that's probably not going to be the case. It's probably most likely going to be only 2 of these guys who goes over 1,000 yards, but I definitely could see T. Higgins having a breakout year this year for Cincinnati, despite how much talent he has at wide receiver that he's going to be playing alongside of. But I think T. Higgins probably could be in for a really big year. I know you have Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd, who you're going to be competing for targets with, but you look at T. Higgins, this guy is really good when it comes to his ability to make things happen. I think he's also pretty good in the red zone as well. So you look at T. Higgins, I think this is a guy who has potential to break out this year for Cincinnati. Cincinnati has 3 wide receivers on this team that could go for over 1,000 yards, and all 3 could possibly be in discussion to be Pro Bowlers. As we know, that's not going to happen, but that just goes to show you how much talent Cincinnati has at wide receiver this year. You have 3 wide receivers who have Pro Bowl caliber talent. Now we move on to some of the guys who a lot of people probably don't know about. Alden Tate. Alden Tate is really underrated when he's able to get a chance to get on the field, but obviously when you had T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and all the other guys they had, on top of that you had A.J. Green, who came back last year. He's now gone. Alden Tate didn't really get a lot of opportunities last year. He only caught 14 passes for 150 yards, but the season prior, when he was actually able to get some playing time, he did a lot of good things. So Alden Tate provides some good depth for Cincinnati. If, God forbid, one of these guys above him, like Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, or T. Higgins goes down, if you're a Bengals fan, you can insert Alden Tate in there, and you can still have a lot of confidence in your wide receiving position being able to produce because you have a lot of depth there. I like Alden Tate a lot. I'm a big Alden Tate fan. He's really big, physical, great red zone target, but he doesn't really bring a lot after the catch. He's not that explosive once he gets the ball in his hands. He's a really big physical wide receiver that could bully opposing cornerbacks, but you don't really get a lot of that big flashiness after the catch out of Alden Tate. But you definitely do get a really big physical deep threat and a really good red zone target once you get inside of the 20. So I think Alden Tate is going to be really overlooked, and he's going to be overshadowed because he's probably not going to get his number called all that much this year playing behind T. Higgins, Boyd, and Chase. But he's definitely a guy who does deserve some recognition because he does have some really good talent, and he could be a starting wide receiver on a handful of teams right now. Then you look at Mike Thomas. Mike Thomas had a touchdown reception last year, had 132 receiving yards with 13 receptions. Now you look at Mike Thomas, he's probably another guy who probably won't get a lot of action this year, but he does provide some really good depth. He's a guy who, if you need to, can come in and give you some production there if you end up having some injuries. Then you got Trenton Irwin, who was a practice squad guy. Will he make the roster this year? That's up in the air. I don't think he will. I'm rooting for him. Like I said, I'm not trying to knock anybody, but if I had to do some predictions, I think Trenton Irwin probably could be the first guy on the chopping block. Then you got Scotty Washington, once again, another practice squad guy. You bring in Trent Taylor. Now, Trent Taylor spent some time with the 49ers. He's more of a special teams guy, in my opinion. I think he could bring some production when it comes to special teams there. I'm not really expecting him to have all that much of an impact when it comes to the receiver position. I think he may be more of a guy who is brought in to contribute on special teams. Then you got rookie Riley Less. Then you have a guy who I'm really excited to see, Stanley Morgan. Now, Stanley Morgan came out of Nebraska a couple of years back. I wish that we could see some more Stanley Morgan. And we will with the NFL having preseason this year. Stanley Morgan is really good in my opinion. Okay, I just think that he's one of the guys who just needs a chance to get his number called and a chance to go on the field and prove what he can do. Because Stanley Morgan, okay, he may not be the fastest guy, but he has really good hands. He runs really good routes. He was on the practice squad for Cincinnati slash being a COVID player, like more of like a COVID reserve in case you had some wide receivers go down with COVID or whatnot. But I definitely think Stanley Morgan has potential to contribute if he gets his number called. And we're going to see that throughout training camp and preseason, because with preseason coming around, we're going to see more guys like Alden Tate, Michael Thomas, and Stanley Morgan get their numbers called when they're running with the 2s and the 3s. So watch out for Stanley Morgan if you are a Bengals fan, because Stanley Morgan definitely is a guy who has a lot of upside, who really has a talent. It's just the fact that Cincinnati is just so loaded at wide receiver. He's just buried down the depth chart. But Stanley Morgan is definitely a guy who is going to make a lot of noise throughout training camp and preseason. And don't be surprised if you end up seeing Stanley Morgan making a lot of plays throughout preseason, because Stanley Morgan, like I said, this guy has tons of upside and tons of potential, just hasn't really had the opportunity to get his number called all that much. So that's it for the Cincinnati Bengals 2021 wide receiver preview. Let me know how you guys feel about the Bengals wide receiver position heading into training camp and preseason.